We are on our final day of investigating creation, and we are looking at day 6. Okay, so where at in the Bible do I need to find if we're talking about creation, day 6? Do I open it to the middle?
No.
No, okay, how about the end?
Yeah.
Is it at the end?
Yeah.
Nope, where is it? Brooke?
First.
The first. The first in the beginning, right? The very, very front, like the first page. So we are going to look at Genesis, chapter 1, verse 24. Okay? I'm going to read it from the Bible, and I'm going to hold up a picture. No, I'm going to test your listening first. Okay? Are you all listening? You got your listening ears on? Okay. So I'm going to ask you which things God created, but let's read it from the Bible first. So Genesis chapter 1, verse 24, it says, "And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after its kind, cattle and creeping thing and beast of the earth after its kind, and it was so." So what did God create, Sadie? Tell me one of the things.
The beast ones were dinosaurs. I guess so.
Yeah, dinosaurs were created on day 6. Yep. Okay, what else? So that was one of the beasts. There could be other beasts. Brooke?
Lions.
Lions.
Are those beasts? Because I don't know.
Yeah. Ellie?
Buffaloes.
Yep, buffalo. Coraline?
Tigers.
Tigers. Yep, Rustin?
Bears.
Bears. Gabriel?
People.
We haven't got to that yet. You are correct. It was day 6, but you're ahead of the game. So what did I read? There's a certain things that no one said yet. Aiden, you had your hand up.
Alligators.
Alligators. Okay, Sadie?
Black Panthers.
Black Panthers. Yeah. Ellie?
Snakes.
Snakes. None of y'all had said snakes. All of the creeping things, right?
I know one.
So, go ahead.
Rhino.
Rhino. Okay,
Rhino.
Gabriel?
Parrots.
Those were birds. Those were back in day 5, but that is a good guess. They're animals. Okay, so verse 24 it said, "And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature." So the living creature after its kind. That means that they don't change kinds, right? A black panther is always going to be a black panther. It's not going to change into a fish. And it didn't come from a fish. Right? So they say the same kind. And it said cattle. What are cattle?
Case.
Sawyer? You know what cattle are? Cows. Cows. And I think other things might be in the cattle family. So it says cattle after their kind, right? Because there's a kind that's cattle. And everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. Ooh, creepy things. They just make you feel like, yeah, right?
I know
Creepy
one.
things.
I know
Okay.
another creepy thing.
And the beast of the earth after his kind, and it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God said it was good. So this after its kind, I want y'all to really remember that. Okay, the Bible says that things were after their kind. They didn't switch to be something else. Okay? Y'all might think, well, duh, that's obvious, right? But some people don't believe that. Okay, so we have lots of pictures of animals. I want 5 people to tell me an animal they see here. Brooke.
Lion.
Lion. Rustin.
A sheep.
A sheep. Sadie.
A lion.
You saw the lion too. Tyson.
A horse.
A horse. And Aiden.
Zebra.
A zebra. Very good. Okay. Different people. So if I just called on you, you were one of the 5. Here's some of the creeping things. So tell me a creeping thing that you see. Campbell.
Snakes.
Snakes. Okay, different people. If I just called on you, don't. Coralie.
Lizards.
Lizards. Sawyer. Did you say it?
Centipedes.
Centipedes. Okay, Gabriel.
Snakes.
Snakes. Yeah. Okay.
Snakes have been
Very good.
near like a giant picture of snakes.
A giant picture of snake. Does anybody not like snakes? You're like, I don't like snakes. Just a few?
I've never been scared of
Okay.
them.
Were there spiders on here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of kinds of spiders, right?
Where are the spiders?
Is anyone afraid of spiders? They can be scary. I'm going to tell you some very interesting facts about this animal.
I think it's a giraffe.
What is it? You think it's a
Giraffe.
A giraffe? You're correct. It's a giraffe. What is unique or special about a giraffe? Different from all the other animals. Sadie?
They're long necks.
Their long necks. Now, some people think, oh, at first the giraffes had short necks. And then they kept reaching for food, and their neck grew. But let me tell you some interesting things about the giraffe. Their heart weighs like 25 pounds. Does anybody know how much you weigh? Do you know how much you weigh? Do you know, Ellie?
Yep.
How much do you weigh?
67.
67, so about half of you, a little less than half, is how much the giraffe's heart weighs. If we cut Ellie in half, that's how much the giraffe's heart weighs. Can you imagine that? Your heart's not 25 pounds.
Nothing, no.
No. Why do you think their heart has to be so big? Their heart has to be big because we have blood that runs everywhere, right? For the giraffe to push, for the blood to get from the heart all the way up to the head, it has to be big and strong to go all the way up the big long neck. And then the veins, do y'all know what veins are? Veins, like it's where your blood is. You can sometimes see it on your arms. You can see your veins.
Oh yeah, I always see them.
You know?
So
the veins are what carries the blood, right? And their veins have to be special so that a way it can pump the blood up. And when they bend over, they don't like explode or anything. Do you think that could happen by accident?
No.
No. Someone very, very, very intelligent had to design that. Someone very, very creative had to come up with giraffe, right? Big long neck. So one more interesting fact, their lungs, do you know what lungs do? What do lungs do? Breathe. They help you breathe, right?
I
Okay.
can obviously feel them.
Their lungs are 8 times bigger than ours.
Oh my gosh.
8 times. So it's like if we put 8 of our lungs together, that would be one of theirs.
I'm already
Because
thinking
they've got
about
to
it.
hold all of that air to go up the big long neck. That is very cool, huh?
I'm already
God
thinking
did some
about
amazing work with the giraffe. Okay, now who was here for Sunday school? We're doing Sunday school all together as families. Sadie, you were here. Brooke, I think you were here. What did Brother Steve teach about on Sunday? There was an animal. Were you paying attention?
Oh yeah, I wasn't.
Oh.
I couldn't be there. Where was that?
Do you remember what animal it was?
Oh yeah! Okay, never mind. Now I remember.
Now you remember. On Sunday, Brother Steve gives a quick lesson for the kids, and he taught us about camels.
And that their lungs weren't filled with water, they were filled with heat.
Their humps,
Yeah.
they're not filled with water. They're filled with fat.
Oh yeah.
And when the fat melts, it's like a liquid. The water, it gives them water, so they can go a very long time without water. And God made their feet. Has anybody seen a camel like in person? A few of you have? Yeah, they're big. Right?
Big.
They're big. And their feet are big. Do you know why their feet are so big? Brother Steve told us, why are their feet so big, Sadie?
So they can walk on the sand, so they don't sink in the sand.
So they don't sink in the sand. Yeah, because if their feet were tiny, they would just sink inside the sand because they're so heavy and big. So they have to have big feet so they don't sink. And part of our experiment today is going to be about that. Have you ever walked in snow and sunk?
Oh, yeah, I sunk
Okay.
before.
Has anybody ever worn snowshoes? Like shoes that make your feet bigger?
I've never worn snowshoes before.
Well, we're going to learn about that in our science
Are we going to
experiment
wear
time.
snowshoes?
Okay. But before we do that, we have one more part of day 6 creation that we didn't get to yet. So we got to go back to the Bible in verse 26.
Woo.
Okay? Verse 26, this is our last thing of creation. It says, and God said, let us make man in our image. This is different than how God created everything else.
So,
right?
boys,
God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds, over the cattle, every creeping thing. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. We were made in God's image. None of the animals were made in God's image. Right? The land animals, God said, let the earth bring forth the animals. Light, he said, let there be light, and there was light. But God formed man in his own image. That doesn't necessarily mean we have a body that we look just like God, like you might look like your mom or dad. But it means that God gave us a mind to think. He gave us a personality with emotions. Right? All of those things. He gave us choice. He gave us a will that we can choose things. We can choose to do this or not do that. God made people very, very special. Now in Genesis 1, the Bible gives us an overview. Okay, he says God created this, this, this. And then in Genesis 2, it gives us more detail. Okay? Does anybody already know how God created man? How did God create man?
Oh,
you know?
We're almost girls. I get it now. Definitely.
How did God create man? Do you know, Brooke?
He said it by his words.
Nope. No, but that's how he created everything else. Do you know already, Rustin?
No, but when you did that camel, when it's snowy, I wear my boots outside.
Yeah. Okay, so let's listen very carefully to how God created man. You have your listening ears on? You knew this.
Oh, I'm serious.
Listening ears. Okay. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground. Everything else God said, let it be, let it be. But man God formed out of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And man became a living soul. God didn't do that with any of the animals. He didn't breathe breath into their nostrils like he did man. Man has a soul, a living soul. And then we go on to verse 21 and we find out how woman was made. Okay? Because God gave man, and he named him Adam, he said, name all the animals. And Adam looked around and he said, well, all the birds, there's a boy bird and a girl bird. They all have partners. They all have mates. And Adam didn't have a mate. So verse 21, the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. Y'all know what that means? He was like out of it. Okay, does anybody ever sleep really hard? Like you're hard to wake up? This was even deeper, okay, because listen to what happens next. So when Adam slept, and he took one of his ribs, point to one of your ribs, feel it. You feel a rib in there? That kind of tickles a little bit, right? So God took one of Adam's ribs and closed up the flesh, and the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, he made woman. So God made man from the dust of the earth, right? He formed man. And how did God make woman? Coralie?
The rib. His rib.
Whose rib?
Adam's.
Adam's. From the man's rib. How did God make man? Sadie?
From the dust of the ground.
Yep, he formed him from the dust of the ground. And then he caused the man to be a deep, deep sleep. Took one of his ribs, closed him up, and made woman from the ribs. That is very incredible. Right? Yeah. Was this the first time you've heard this? Has anybody heard this before? You just forgot? Some of you? Okay.
Not me.
I just want y'all to know God made us very special, right? He made us in his likeness, like him. We have a mind to think, we can choose, we have personality, and he gave us a soul. He gave us a soul that we can believe in Jesus and live forever with him. Okay, we have a few questions, right, Sadie? Or comments?
You want to know what happened to my mom last night?
No, let's talk about that later. Anything about this class? Rustin?
When you were talking about the bird on that book, like when you see a red bird and then when it's all red, that means it's a daddy, and when it's all white, that means it's a mommy.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, because all of the animals, right? There's a boy and a girl. Yep. Okay. So that was day 6. What did God create on day 6? Tyson?
I didn't tell you.
Good. Okay.
What I know about animals is all the boys' animals are more than one color to attract females.
That is for some of the animals. Yep, it is that way. Okay. I like that y'all know lots of interesting facts, but let's stay on topic so we can get to our experiment.
Wait.
Okay? Nope. Wait. Day 6. What did God create on day 6? Aiden? Creepy creatures. Right? What else on day 6? Coralie? People. Man and woman. What was special about the man and the woman? What was special? Tyson?
I don't know.
Were the man and woman made any different than the other everything else? Or were they made the exact same?
No.
What was special?
They were made different from everything else. They were made out of dust off the ground.
God formed them, right? Everything else, God spoke it. Let there be light. There was light. Let this happen. It happened. But God formed man. And he gave him a living soul. Living soul. Okay, what else did God make? Day 6. Gabriel?
Oh, I just had to tell you.
Can you tell me after the lesson? Okay. Day 6. What else? Aiden said creepy things. Ugh. Coralie said man, right, and woman. Sawyer?
Giraffes.
Crabs?
Giraffes.
Giraffes. It's hard to hear with the mask, huh? Giraffes, correct. So animals, land animals, right? All the animals on the land. Yep. Okay. Today's only supposed to be about day 6, but we're going to talk about day 7 too. Does anybody know what God did on day 7? Anyone? He rested. God rested. Now, do you think God was tired from all of his work? He's God. He didn't need to rest. But he rested on day 7. He was finished. 7 days of creation, right? How many days are in a week? How many days? 7. How do you think there got to be 7 days in a week? Did someone just choose 7 one day? probably after the 7th day that God created. He created everything in 6 days and he rested on the 7th day. Okay.
Okay, so today we're here in our lab experiment for day number 6. And we talked about in our lesson that God created land animals and also people. So we're going to do a few different experiments with thinking about some animals and also how God has created us, people, in a very special way. So our experiment today is a little unusual, but we really want to talk about how God made special animals that were in the Arctic, those in the really cold region, or also even this goes for those that are in the desert regions. Those in the cold, they have to walk on top of the snow and not fall in and like sink inside the snow. Same thing with those in the desert as they walk on the sand. So our experiment today goes along with a really important scientific principle called PSI, which stands for pounds per square inch. So the idea is if you put all your weight on just a very tiny little place, then all your weight is on that small part, and so it will sink farther into either snow or dirt or sand of some sort or another. But if you have a larger area and you can spread the weight out, then you won't sink in as much. So today for our experiment, we're using flour, which is supposed to represent our snow for the Arctic. And then these are not Arctic animals, but we couldn't find any Arctic animals, so we're just using these animals. But the idea is just thinking about their hooves and thinking about the size of their hooves and their weight and how they would sink into the snow. So maybe we can try our first. We're going to start with a larger animal here, and we're going to just gently place it inside the flour or inside our snow and see what happens. Now you can take it out and let's see how far did it go inside. And you can see it went in quite a ways, especially those front hooves really went inside our fake snow, if you want to call it. So over here, we have actually made some little, these are supposed to kind of represent snowshoes, but they would represent the fact that Arctic animals and animals that travel in the sand, like the camel, would not have such small hooves, but they would have bigger hooves. So we want to try, we're going to try kind of a smaller one at first and see if we were to stick this on here and make, it's like we're sort of making snowshoes for the animal, but it's really just that God designed those animals in the Arctic and in the desert with a larger hooves on the bottom. So yes, and you can just use this, and we're just gonna, so we don't pack our flour down. All right, so now you try it again. Again, just place it in there and let's see what happens. So it went in a little bit, and I want you to just see, can you press it down a little bit? If you try to put a little pressure on it, what happens? All right, now lift it out and let's see what happens. Go ahead and lift the animal out. And you can see, again, it went in a little bit, but not a great amount, right? Maybe not as much as before. All right, so you want to try to smooth out your flour again, and we're going to try this with different size. Now, I've actually got a small here, and I've got a medium, and I've got a large. We're just going to skip to the large one just because of time, but you can make different sizes, and there's 3 different sizes that you can try. Okay, all right. Oops, that one doesn't want to stick on there very well, does it? All right, see, I'm going to help you a little bit. All right, so now, like with the same pressure that you sort of pushed a little bit on the last one, try the same. Don't do it any harder, but don't do it any softer either. All right, and now take that off. And you can see this time, even with her pushing down a little bit, it hardly sunk into the flour or our fake snow at all. So this is just to represent a little bit about God's design for the animals that are in the Arctic or in the sand in the desert, that they would have larger hooves, spread out hooves, in order to help them so they don't sink down. I just want to show you just really quickly, if you look at the hooves on this zebra, and then you look at the hooves of this deer, you can see there's quite a bit of difference. And I just want you to see when we put this one inside the flour, what happens to it. Do you remember what happened when we put the zebra in? It sank down, but look at the deer. If we take it out, oh, it really sank down. And so if we would just quickly try to help it with some snowshoes here, the deer definitely would not make it very well in the snow, would it? He would just continue to sink down farther and farther. And the research that I did showed that people have actually studied these Arctic animals, and they try to replicate the things that God has already given to them. Oops, I don't think we got them very well. After they get the flour on them, they don't stay in there very well. All right, and then again, if we try to press it down a little bit, you'll see when we take them off, they really didn't go in there too much, did they? Kind of messed our flour up a little bit, but you can see they didn't sink down like they did the first time. So again, this is just an evidence of how God has given those animals in the Arctic and those animals in the desert special feet in order to be able to survive and not sink down into the sand or into the snow. Again, was that an accident? No, that was a design that God made because He is a great creator and designer. Okay, here's our next experiment. Not only did God make animals on day number 6, but He also made people. And God made a wonderful design with people as well. So what we're going to talk about today is just the wonderful design that God has made with our hand. The fact that our hand can actually move and bend, and it does whatever we want it to do. So in our class, we're going to start with this hand. We've cut out our hand template, and then we've glued our straws on already to try to make it a little faster in our class. And then we've glued our string. You will want to go ahead and fish the string all the way through the straws so that it ends up looking like this, all right? And then this is supposed to represent our hand. The straws are supposed to represent the bones that are in our hand. And then our string represents like the tendons or the muscles that are there. And so then you can just have a lot of fun playing with, you can pull the different strings, or turn it this way so everybody can see. You can pull one string and have just one finger working. Maybe this finger here, we'll try to make that one work. Yeah, there you go. You can pull all of the strings, actually like you were trying to grab something and hold it in your hand. Are you getting all of them? There you go. You can try to come up with creative ways that you might use your hand. You can say, I love you, and the sign for that. If you do that with your hands, yeah. You can try to have people come to you if you want. So a lot of different, if you maybe make your hand come this way, and then how would you say come? Usually you bring your fingers, something like that. Yeah. All right, so you can make them sort of come like that. So you can just have fun with your kids and help them to be able to experiment and just show God's design is wonderful, that our hands move because our brain tells them to do it, and that's the way God has made them. And so we can grasp things, we can use them in so many different ways. So I hope you enjoy and have fun with these experiments.